Governor Cox and I put a statement out earlier this week that we were imploring all parties basically to get to the table and find a constructive solution to the debt ceiling challenge, and a solution that doesn't impair the full faith and credit of the United States of America. And that was an important note to get out there because it came from a Republican and a Democratic governor. We discussed this with the president yesterday. I'll take a point of personal privilege because I raised the topic with the president, and I am personally opposed to clawing back any of those funds for the simple reason that they've either been spent or they're earmarked, and it would wreak havoc with our respective state budgets. I did walk away, I think you joined me in this, with some amount of optimism that reasonable, cool heads will prevail here and that there will be a constructive solution.
Yeah, and I would just concur. We're opposed to the clawback.
A question on, did you guys discuss how you can better leverage private sector investment into infrastructure? We got, what, 1.2 trillion from the government. It can be leveraged up. Did that get discussed in this meeting?
Yeah, it did in a number of different dimensions. Do you want to jump in on that?
Yeah, sure. This was part of the ongoing discussion. A lot of discussion about these funds, how they're going to be spent, how they can be spent more reasonably, how we can get more done. I will say that probably the biggest focus when it comes to that issue was really around permitting reform. And so much of what the federal government wants us to do can't be done because the federal government doesn't let us do it, and it takes years, sometimes decades, to actually get the permits and the approvals that we need. That's where the biggest focus was, the speed portion of this. How can we get these things done quicker?
Yeah, I would just say that came up in many conversations, especially I think in energy and transportation. Please, the AI discussion as well, including just now in our discussion about workforce development. I met with the president of Microsoft earlier, who I've known for many years. I think it's to be determined. And the benefits and the costs associated with AI are spoken about with great passion, and the numbers or the dimensions of it are, sort of, they take your breath away. I think I got this right. The president rather of Microsoft, Brad Smith, said it would take some functions that cost a nonprofit $15 to do down to as low as 8 cents. So you think, holy cow. So what are the implications for that? Workforce issues, kids for sure, wages. I mean, there's all sorts of implications. And again, the folks on either side of that argue the consequences with great passion. John, because it's a game changer.
Sure. Yeah. We have in Utah. We have something we developed several years ago called the Safe Utah app, the Safe UT app. It's available to all of our students at the push of a button. They're in immediate contact, anonymously if they prefer, with a mental health professional at the University of Utah. And we've estimated that we've saved over 300 lives now with that app, and it really is phenomenal. The use that it's getting, again, kind of meeting kids where they are, the technology piece of this, and then getting them real help. We've also rolled it out to our National Guardsmen as well, where we've seen, unfortunately, some serious mental health issues. And so we think that this is something that we can share with the rest of the nation.
I love it, and I have to say, Jonathan, a more general observation so far. It's remarkable to me, both on mental health and infant and maternal health. The answers are out there. We know what works. It's both frustrating and disheartening that we haven't put it all together yet as a nation, but also a source of great optimism that we can do that. Ma'am.
Sure, thank you. So we've been working very closely with our legislature over the past couple of years. We are facing a big drought in the West, not just Utah, but the entire West. In fact, some researchers out of California estimate that this is the worst 20-year drought in the Western United States in the last 1,200 years. So that's what we're dealing with. Fortunately, we have good snowpack this year, which is very helpful. But on that particular issue, we had an opportunity, thanks to the Speaker of the House, it was his idea. We took our legislators on a Black Hawk helicopter tour over the Great Salt Lake so they could get a bird's eye view of what was actually happening. And after that, they passed 12 conservation bills, $500 million in funding. That was last year. Right now, we're in the middle of our legislative session, and we're on pace to get probably more than $500 million again this year, so $1 billion total in water conservation funding, with a significant portion of that dedicated to the Great Salt Lake and making sure we preserve that. I'm happy to tell you all that the lake is up over a foot since its low last year, which is a really big deal, more than the experts predicted. And we're working to get water rights for the lake so that that we can get that water to the end of the row.
That's good news. I think this water is going to be a challenge around the country, around the globe, and we're not immune from that. We don't have nearly the acute issues that you've had out west. We've also,
Well,
it's still big though.
it's big.
Yeah.
Anyway, have you looked into anything with desalinization?
Mm-hmm.
And is there any effort being made on that? I mean, other than just looking at it and studying it?
Mm-hmm.
That's
What's your other?
those two issues.
Yep. So on the first one, which I think is unique to New Jersey, but I'll address the second briefly and turn it to you if I can, Governor. Yes, to some degree, but not to a great degree. It's on the list, desalinization, that is. Most notably through our institutions of higher education. We are very exposed, not only to the general risk of water that we talked about a few minutes ago, but also very specifically on climate change and sea rise. I think New Jersey, based on a report that was done over the past couple of years, New Jersey and Miami, I think, are the two places that are most exposed in the country. So that's really that's the focus much more so of our endeavors along the shore.
Yeah, actually on the desalination piece, we've looked at it in a significant manner. Took a trip to Israel, looked at what Israel is doing around desalination. We don't have shoreline, we don't have an ocean.